Islamic religious, but I think everyone can do what he
The veil symbolizes the female interest in observing her religious obligations, whether she should, how much she should expose her body and how much she's supposed to cover, according to the Quranic verses. It's just a personal thing. I don't never objected. I can go without
It's someone's culture, isn't it? It's their religion. So really, that it doesn't affect me as such. I wear my clothes and they wear their clothes. That's the way I look at it.
The veil. I mean, if we're going to support democracy, they do what they like. I personally don't like it. It's a personal opinion. Veil. I don't like the veil. Veil is something that hides you away. I mean, what do you have to hide away?
Their mosques as they want, not as their religious obligations. I don't think this is.
I think it's personal choice. It doesn't really bother me either way. It's not. It's something that people choose to wear. Same way I choose to wear what I wear, so it's up to them.
I do actually think that it's got to the stage now where it actually is, it segregates people too much and it can cause divisions in society. It's a very fine balance really, isn't it? I think the veil, the headdress is fine, but I think the full veil can be very intimidating as well.
Well, it's not, as one can argue, it's not Islamic, or it is more like a Bedouin culture with something else to it. So the burqa introduced to the, mostly if you're talking about South Asia or Afghanistan, mostly Pashtun areas. I mean, as you go from the city to the rural area, mostly where the women are not permitted to work, a woman have no right. So the burqa go hand in hand with those, well, I can say the rural societies. So as a Islamic identity, I don't think so. It is have any value. Well, a scholar may argue a lot about it, but I don't think so. It carry any weight because.
Islamic, is it right?
Yeah.
People always say that it's religious, but I think it's, the men have fear to lose their women, and I don't think that's, there's the, what's the name of the Bible?
The Quran.
Yeah. I don't think that it's written in the Quran that women have to wear.
Itself, I wouldn't say it's a religious thing because I've never seen it.
It's not religious.
It's not religious, is it? No, it's not a religious thing.
It is a culture.
Not at all. It's a cultural
Bedouin
thing.
culture.
No, Bedouin culture, because they had a lot of sand in the desert and all that, so they had the veil. So how it's become part of religion, I don't know. There's no sand here. I don't really know.
It's to do with their religion. So they're obviously doing it for religious reasons.
We just want our fish and chip shops back.
Sorry, I can't say anything.
I think the West never objected to the Muslim women's observing the hijab before 9/11. All these things are now have become political, and all these things have become sort of Islamic phobia.
I actually think it's quite alienating in our society, and I also think it doesn't necessarily represent progress for the people who wear it, because it marks them out in a Western culture.
It's sort of being portrayed as a symbol of fear at the moment, and a way of marking out differences. It's being used to highlight a difference between Islamic people and the West, then when it shouldn't be used in that way. It's not. It is a visible, of course, it's a visible symbol of difference, but then so is reading the Quran on a train, or going to church on a Sunday, but not. These aren't being brought out. And the thing to do with fear, it's like, well, what are they hiding? What have they got to hide? And from sort of our sort of history of Western civilization, people with something to hide have always covered their face. In the modern take on that is hoodies. Gangs of youths wearing hoodies, so their faces are obscured.
I mean, each to their own, but also people have to appreciate that on a core psychological basic level, if you cannot see someone's face or mouth, it creates a sense of who is this person, and depending upon the context in which you come across that, it can create issues.
I think people have really demonised it as a piece of clothing, and in my opinion, people should be allowed to wear what the fuck they like. Really. I can understand why people find it a little bit threatening, but I think it's been a real overreaction. I think it's been used as a very political tool at the moment, and I think that's been blown a little bit out of proportion. I think the argument's become very simplistic.
Yeah, I'm Muslim as well, but we live in this country. We should don't put it on well. Just walk like this.
In the West, right, the female has been given so much liberty that they are almost walking around showing their tummies, showing even when they are pregnant. I mean, that looks terrible, because I came to this country almost 53 years ago, and even in this country the women were observing their way of dressing themselves, and now at the moment what I see, I just can't believe it, because the women have gone far from even male, shall we say, exposing themselves, because I think men are more covered than women in this country and in the West, and the same thing is happening even to the countries which are not in Europe, even in the Far East and in Asia and in the Middle East.
But I think it also is a sign of oppression of women potentially in that country, and that they're made to wear that by their menfolk, and it's indoctrinated in such a young age that that's what they're expected to do. If they really had freedom of choice, would they wear it? I'm not sure.
No, I don't think I wouldn't wear the whole thing. Maybe if veils were fashionable, I'd wear a veil, but not the whole face cover thing, I wouldn't have thought. Unless it was really cool.
What would happen if suddenly all white men were walking around the streets in balaclavas? How would women feel comfortable with that? And that's a very extreme, silly example, but visually and symbolically, certain visual things mean different things to different people, and everyone needs to be aware of that. So.
how the West seeing the nuns wearing the black uniforms, how the West seeing, I don't know, cross on the chest, how this is the part of the West culture through the many years, and nobody criticizes nuns walking on the street or the priests wearing the, you know, I don't know how to call it in English, the white collar. This is the part of the religion. And then I think the Islamic culture believes the woman should be covered because of the many reasons. And then when the culture is absorbed by the other culture,
it's coming like from the people, Muslim people who live in West were taught well. Suddenly they realize they need a sense of identity or separation. We, as you know, we live with the value that separate us from our neighbor. We value that because we want to say, as a Ibrahim time, the people want to say, I can speak a language is secret from your language. Suddenly, the veil in Europe introduced is some sort of identity. Then because the Muslim in Europe, they have identity crisis.
After this, shall we say, the Iranian, right, Khomeini's period, this thing is coming back to it, because now the whole world has become a small village, right? Everyone knows about every country, what's happening there, what sort of fashion is going on. Even the veil is coming back to Kuwait, coming back to even those women who are actresses, even the models of the children, you know, the dolls, they are properly veiled and all that. So this is part of the new generation. And so I don't think West should have any objection to it, because this is a personal thing. I mean, even a husband wants his wife to have proper, you know, veil and all that. But if they agree to it, then it becomes something personal.
I think they're making it a barrier between the two cultures and civilizations, if you like. I think it's being turned into that. It's a very convenient symbol because you can't miss it. It's there, so it's in your face all the time. And even, I mean, as a quite tolerant sort of member of society, it does elicit strong emotions in me seeing women veiled walking down the street. It sort of angers me in a way that they're made to do that in a free and tolerant society that we're meant to live in. But it also angers me that that is being picked up on, and people are being made to feel even more intolerant on sort of for political reasons.
Everyone can do what they
We've got the councils. I'm trying to unload my van and bring fabric here, giving me a ticket. They're looking out for me. Not only I pay their VAT, their wages, their taxes, their PAYEs and everything else. I mean, that's a form of extremism because they've just gone over the top.
Well, I think if you saw a nun's habit, you would think of Catholics. If you see a veil, you would think of Muslims. That's as much of a symbol as it is. I think if you saw a porcelain cart, you'd think of Amish people. I can't think of what they wear, what their hats are called. But no, there's certain items of clothing that would be, you know, associated. It's an item of clothing associated with a religion rather than a religious symbol. But certainly it's not going to be associated with anything else.
Extremism will be grown by those who are the purveyors of it. It's as simple as that. You know, you can't say we got weapons of mass destruction and then you don't have it and you don't find it. So what does it create? It creates extremism on that side. This is a culture that was 12,000 years, Babylon. So all of a sudden they become wild and they don't know what they're doing, and we've got to go and find their weapons of mass destructions. No, I'm sorry. He was wrong to go to war. He knows he was wrong. He's got to live with his conscience. I'm sorry.
I don't think Islamic Sharia even
always saying that religious, but I think
the female interest